I worked my hardest to get into Barry's elite science class. Yet his eyes were only on the pretty girl sitting next to him. For half a year, the only thing he ever said to me was, "Can you lend Evangeline a sanitary pad?" So I tore up the diary filled with unrequited love and stopped being his little shadow. Years later, at a class reunion, I talked about my first love. I said he was a rough, fierce brute. Before the words had even faded, Barry held up the painstakingly pieced-together diary, trembling as he demanded, "Doris, you're lying. I was clearly your first love. I'm still waiting for you, for that confession." Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. During math class, I and the beautiful schoolbelle Evangeline went to the blackboard together to solve the problem. An arithmetic sequence problem. Evangeline solved it in just 3 steps. And I, foolishly, kept writing without stopping for over a dozen lines. Someone was the first to laugh, though who it was remains unknown. Then, one after another, mocking laughter rose from behind. Evangeline's natural scent is a sweet milky fragrance. When the smell made me sneeze uncontrollably, the entire class burst into laughter. At that moment, a cool minty fragrance drifted down from above, inexplicably soothing. Top student Barry was called up to verify the calculations. He took the chalk from me during my most awkward moment and patted my shoulder to comfort me. But the next second, without even looking, he erased a large portion of my answer, breaking Evangeline's 3-step solution into 4 steps, arriving at the same result. 51 of 50. I calculated the same as Evangeline, but not as concisely as hers. The teacher, full of approval, erased another part of my answer and began writing an explanation. I was forced to retreat below the podium, unsure whether to stay or leave. In the end, I also calculated 51/50ths, but in the eyes of these top science class geniuses, that was the dumbest and most foolish method. Just like my student number being 51, I was the superfluous one in this class, a fool they looked down upon. The class started making a fuss. "Stop joking. Barry and I are just good buddies." All right. Focus on the questions and stop joking around. Evangeline and the teacher didn't take it seriously. Only Barry's admiring gaze didn't seem feigned. Indeed, he and Evangeline were better matched. One was a top academic achiever, the other a genius campus belle. Peppermint meets milk, a match made in heaven. They could discuss challenging math problems together and watch English movies without subtitles. While I couldn't keep up with their lively minds at all, I could only clumsily do small favors to please Barry. For 3 years of secret admiration, I studied day and night just to squeeze into the advanced science class and get closer to Barry. But half a year passed. His eyes could only see Evangeline, never once turning to say a word to me in the back seat. What does it matter how close the distance is? I still can't enter his world. Feeling upset, I decided to skip PE class and take a rest. As I was drowsily lying on the desk, it suddenly got knocked a few times. Looking up, Barry's cold and noble face appeared before me. This was the first time he had ever spoken to me on his own initiative. "Can you lend Evangeline a sanitary pad?" In a daze, I thought I must have misheard. On second thought, of course, Barry wouldn't specifically talk to me. It was just that there happened to be someone in the class. "She's just a woman, that's all." I took out a piece and handed it to him, then lay back down on the desk. Half an hour later, Barry returned to the classroom with a gloomy face and coldly questioned me. "What the hell did you give her? Evangeline kept saying she felt cold after using it, and now she's passed out in the infirmary on N4. I froze for a moment, just about to speak when Barry's scolding came raining down. "For menstrual use. And you didn't even buy decent quality. I dread to think what kind of girl you are. You nearly harmed Evangeline." I was left speechless, not even knowing where to begin explaining these basic physiological facts. Too much resentment and anger fought to burst forth from my chest. Finally, I simply stopped saying anything. He was convinced it was my fault. No matter how much I explained, a slew of absurd accusations would still be pinned on me. Why should I waste my energy? Evangeline didn't return until the afternoon after her 4 drip. Perhaps still holding a grudge, Barry treated me even colder than before, slamming all the test papers onto my desk when passing them out. But this time, I didn't reach out to catch them, letting the papers scatter across the floor through the desk gap. He frowned and glanced back at me. I said expressionlessly, "Pick it up." "What?" I said, "You threw it. You pick it up." My assertiveness left Barry stunned. He paused for a moment, then crouched at my feet to gather the papers and place them back on my desk. For the rest of the afternoon, I didn't say another word to him. Dinner naturally passed without much conversation. After the meal, there was a long break, during which I would take out the trash once. The classroom didn't have a trash bin, so we had to go to the floor's designated waste sorting room. I used to use being on the way as an excuse to casually take Barry's trash and throw it away together. Later, everyone around me started handing their trash to me. This time, I don't want to take care of anyone. Thanks, Doris. I really like hardworking and virtuous girls. Evangeline smiled as she hung a large bag of trash on my hand. But to her surprise, I coldly refused. I'm not your nanny. Evangeline froze in shock, her eyes welling up with a grieved redness. A group of people whispered behind my back. What's gotten into her today? It's not about taking the wrong medicine. It's about being jealous, isn't it? Every minute in senior year is precious. She was going that way anyway, so she just took it out for us. We have exams to prepare for. In the end, it was Barry who stood up and ran out of the classroom. He called my name as he chased after me, but I pretended not to hear and didn't turn back. After making a big loop around the playground and returning to the classroom, I found a pink pack of sanitary pads on my desk. Barry looked at me intently with his pitch-black eyes and whispered to me, I want to apologize first for what happened this morning. I'm sorry. So, did he figure it out? Did he buy this specifically to apologize? My moment of soft-heartedness lasted only a second before being shattered by his next absurd remark. Evangeline really cherishes your friendship. Don't let my mistakes affect her. When she comes back, you should apologize and comfort her too. You shouldn't have snapped at her earlier. It was then that I noticed. Behind Barry's body blocking the desk, there was also a large bag of sanitary pads he had gone out of his way to buy. All brands and models were bought for Evangeline to choose. To prevent me from bullying Evangeline, he randomly grabbed a pack from inside to fob me off. Fobbing off this not-so-important classmate, I started deliberately avoiding Barry. I stopped responding to whatever he said, stopped creating chance encounters, and no longer revolved around him. Barry seemed to notice. One evening on my way home, he deliberately waited for me outside the convenience store. Seeing that I bought the rice ball, he helped me tear open the packaging, neatly folded it, and tucked it into my hand. Doris, let's talk. I think you're upset. About what? Just one rice ball today. Giving it to me again. Aren't you eating? I stayed silent for a few seconds before tossing the rice ball into the dog bowl. Sorry. This was bought for the dog. If you want some, you'll have to negotiate with it. Barry was utterly stunned. I shoved past him without a backward glance. To avoid Barry, I took a secluded path home. After turning the corner of the alley, a familiar milky fragrance wafted through the air. I stumbled upon Evangeline vaping with a few delinquent girls. It turns out Evangeline's milky scent is actually a flavor of vape. In the pale blue haze, Evangeline smiled and waved at me, her eyes brimming with mischief. Doris, are you going home? Come say hello to your sisters. That's the bottom of our class. Been crushing on my deskmate for ages. The little bitch doesn't even know how to be ashamed. I frowned and tried to dodge, but the little punk girl immediately chased after me, digging her sharp nails into my face several times. So you're the one always pestering my brother-in-law. Before the words had even finished, the voice of the dean came from behind. He had caught several students vaping. The little delinquent girls scattered and fled. Evangeline, seeing no way to avoid it, frantically shoved the vape into my backpack in a panic. I didn't have time to shake it off before being ordered to stand still properly. Good morning, teacher. Evangeline greeted unhurriedly, her aloof face filled with calm indifference. None of us were allowed to speak, obediently emptying our pockets and school bags, where the contraband was naturally discovered. I quickly jumped in to explain. Teacher, smoke has a smell. You can smell it, right? The milky scent of vape is unmistakable on whoever carries it. But the next second, Barry's voice suddenly came from behind. Teacher, I'm Evangeline's deskmate. That smell is Evangeline's natural body fragrance, not from smoking. Besides, we're all in the top science class. Evangeline ranked 7th in the grade this time. Would she really do such a thing? This road isn't Barry's way home, so he followed me all the way. No matter if I made a mistake or not, no matter what mistake the person he likes made, he always favors the one he likes. This is the worthless thing I've had a crush on for 3 years. In the end, I still got punished, and my explanation was dismissed as an excuse. What else could I expect when I'm ranked 51st in the grade, while Evangeline is ranked 7th? Teachers always instinctively favor the top students. The homeroom teacher is that math teacher. Originally, disciplinary actions weren't made public, but she announced it in front of the whole class as a warning to everyone, and even punished me by making me stand outside for a whole class period. Some little girls, I advise you to have some self-respect. You're already slow-witted, yet you pick up all these bad habits. Outsiders shouldn't embarrass our elite class. Evangeline smirked as she flipped a page of the 5-3 workbook, her eyes brimming with smugness. As for Barry, he didn't dare to meet my gaze. I walked out of the classroom calmly, stood in the hallway, and tore page after page of the diary filled with unspoken love. We first met during the summer vacation of 9th grade, when a tall, lanky boy explained physics problems to me. His clear voice made my heart skip a beat. From then on, every page of my diary was about him. What's his name? What score did he get? He ate the little cake I secretly gave him. He didn't reject my feelings. Every page counts down the days until adulthood. Planning to confess to him. Until this very moment in senior year, all expectations and admiration came to an abrupt end. Barry, not worth another drop of my ink. The English teacher, passing by with milk tea, stopped upon seeing this, took the free little duck toy, and handed the milk tea to me. Doris, even if you're being punished by standing, don't tear up your books. Did Kelly the big sister nag at you again? Her mouth just can't help it. You got into the top class based on your own merit. The school's cutoff score included you, so her disdain is pointless. Besides, I see you solve math problems correctly every time. You might not be as quick-witted as them, but you're more meticulous and rigorous. You're not inferior. Life is your own. Don't revolve around a man. And don't mind those strangers. Do your best in the mock exams. I smiled with relief, downed the entire cup of milk tea in one go, and stood outside to continue listening to the math class. After class, I returned to my seat and threw away the trash. Barry unexpectedly turned around and reached out to me. Give me the test paper. Do you know the key points from last class? As he spoke, he casually took my trash bag and placed it into his own small trash bin. Sit down. I'll tell you. Looking down at him from above, I coldly uttered 2 words. Need you. Barry suddenly froze. After a face full of hesitation, he lowered his voice and said to me, last night, I slammed the 5-3 workbook onto the table and turned to leave. At noon, the homeroom teacher suddenly moved my seat to the farthest corner of the classroom. The class PE rep, who swapped seats with me, happily discovered a large box of chocolates and a complete set of math test papers meticulously highlighted with key points on the new desk, all secretly prepared by Barry. He hugged Barry on the shoulder, thanking his good buddy. Barry's eyes darkened as he clenched his fist tightly, remaining silent. All afternoon, he turned his head countless times, glancing toward the corner. As for me, I didn't even spare him an extra glance. After changing seats, Barry would always deliberately create some chance encounters. He'd intentionally tie his shoelaces at the doorway, waiting to go downstairs for morning exercises with me. He'd purposely explain homework to my deskmate, finding excuses to strike up conversations with me. When I skipped dinner, he'd buy rice balls for the whole class, adding an extra milk tea in my portion, pretending it was a free gift. But I don't care about any of it now. I'm not hungry. You can have it. For me. Thanks, Doris. My deskmate Gina took my rice ball and milk tea, her eyes curving into smiles. The conversation drifted into Barry's ears, his pen tip abruptly stopping as he frowned at me. At that moment, Evangeline let out a delicate sigh. I have a bit of a stomachache, Barry, and can't eat the rice ball. Could you buy me a cream puff from the shop across from school? Please, buddy. Barry immediately turned his gaze back to Evangeline, hesitated for a moment, then stood up and said, it's not about whether it's troublesome or not. I wouldn't refuse anything you ask. Evangeline smiled faintly, her eyes drifting subtly toward me with a hint of Victor's pride. Barry thought for a moment and then asked Evangeline, do all you girls like those cream puffs? Well, you see, sometimes I also want to try the things those young girls like. Barry nodded and took advantage of the remaining break time to dash out of the school. The cream puff shop has been extremely popular recently, with the line stretching all the way around the street corner. Even after half an hour of evening self-study, Barry still hadn't returned. Just at that moment, a sudden downpour began outside the window. and Barry's umbrella was still in the desk. When evening self-study ended, Barry appeared outside the classroom door, fine droplets rolling down his hair. His usually aloof and noble face was deathly pale, even his lips frozen colorless, looking terrifyingly disheveled. Damn, Barry, you went out just to buy cream puffs. Was it worth it? Barry didn't speak, handing a slightly damp package of cream puffs to Evangeline. It's Evangeline's favorite strawberry flavor. Then, he walked up to my desk again, unzipping his school uniform. He pulled out another large box of cream puffs from inside his jacket. The box had been carefully protected against his chest, even though he was completely drenched. Not a single drop of water had touched the box. Inside was one of every flavor, which he placed gently in front of me. Barry said, "I bought an extra one while queuing. Here you go." I lazily lifted my eyes. "Oh, then let's share it. I hate cream puffs the most and don't want to eat them." Barry froze stiffly on the spot, icy droplets from his hair falling into the reddened corners of his eyes, which instantly welled up with a mix of hurt and confusion. He stared at me in silence, his face full of unspoken words. At this moment, the homeroom teacher Kelly returned. She immediately started speaking with a sarcastic tone. "Some girls shouldn't corrupt the promising students in the class. Their academics aren't great, but they're full of coquettish charm. If you want to eat something, buy it yourself. How shameless to ask boys for things and order them around. Is this how your parents taught you to behave at home?" I immediately patted Evangeline on the shoulder. "The teacher is talking about you. You should listen carefully." Evangeline blushed furiously, and the air fell silent for a full 10 seconds. Kelly suddenly pointed at me and exclaimed loudly, "I'm talking to you. Doris, I saw you messing with Barry. Why can't you behave?" At this moment, the class monitor spoke up. "Teacher, you seem to be targeting Doris too much. We were all there today. It was Evangeline who wanted to eat the cream puffs, and Barry was the one who went to buy them. What does Doris have to do with it?" "Yeah, Doris didn't say a word and didn't even eat any cream puffs. What's wrong with you?" "Teacher, Doris might be a bit slow, but there's nothing wrong with her character. We all know that." Kelly was silenced by the student's words, standing awkwardly on the podium glaring at me, all her resentment stuck in her throat. At that moment, Evangeline let out a soft moan, dropped the cream puff, covered her face, and ran out of the classroom. Barry didn't chase after her to comfort her but instead stood up to speak for me. "Teacher, please respect Doris and apologize to her." Seeing the heartache in his eyes, I let out a bitter laugh. The whole class finished clearing things up for me, and suddenly he remembered he had a mouth. When they framed me for vaping, why didn't I hear anything about respect or apologies? Barry, this guy, he's just getting worse and worse. Kelly ended up apologizing to me, but from then on, there was bad blood between us, and she never gave me a kind look again. But as the English teacher said, life is my own. I don't care what some Kelly thinks. After the spring festival, the school introduced a second evening study session, ending at 9 p.m. The elite science class was always the last to turn off the lights in the whole grade, often staying behind to study much longer. Me too. In the first week, Barry always waited to walk home with me, silently following behind to see me part of the way. By the second week, I was studying even later, and at 10 o'clock he couldn't resist gently tapping on my desk. "Doris, I'm heading home now. Would you like me to give you a ride since it's on my way?" "I'm not going that way." Barry curled his fingers and turned back to his seat. Evangeline stretched and rubbed her sore shoulders as she asked Barry if he was leaving. "Barry, shall we walk together? I heard there are troublemakers outside the school lately. Wonder if we'll run into them." Her voice carried an unintentional soft sweetness, seemingly designed to stir a man's protective instincts. Barry hesitated before refusing her, saying he still had another test paper to complete. "Take a taxi back. Your living expenses are around 2,000 or 3,000. Right. Be careful on your way home." Evangeline bit her lower lip in grievance and got up to leave. Gave me a fierce glare before leaving. It was almost 11 by the time I packed up and left. All high schools in City A are day schools, with no boarding options. So some parents simply rent apartments near the school. For families like mine, living neither too close nor too far, we walk when there's time, but take the subway if it's too late. However, the subway station in the evening always seems to attract some rather peculiar individuals. Just as I stepped off the escalator, I came across 4 or 5 tall, grubby men sitting in a row against the wall, eyes closed as they rested. Perhaps they were homeless, or perhaps, to swipe my card and enter the station. I had to walk right through them, stepping over their outstretched legs blocking the way. I held my breath and walked forward cautiously with my head lowered. At that moment, Barry rushed up from behind, took my hand proactively, and said loudly, "Don't be afraid. I'll take you back." His shout caused the men who had been sleeping to open their eyes in unison, staring at us ominously. The next second, Barry's phone suddenly rang. Evangeline's sobs coming through the receiver. "Stay away. Oh, Barry, save me." Barry's expression changed, and without hesitation he pushed me aside, turning to run toward the school. At the same moment, the man closest to me got up from the ground, staggering toward me with a greedy and vicious look in his eyes. Without a second thought, I turned and ran. Unexpectedly, I crashed hard into a broad embrace. An overwhelming smell of gasoline flooded over me, instantly making me dizzy. I leaned against the wall, slowly retching. "Boss, I'm starving. Give me a grilled sausage." "What are you doing? Don't ruin the city's image and embarrass me. Get up." The man's hoarse voice carried a heavy tone of anger as he kicked each of them, forcing everyone to their feet. Only then did he remember me, the one who had been bumped into. Before me stood a strikingly handsome face with deep, cold eyes that held a hint of laziness. His black hair was cropped extremely short, rough yet undeniably attractive, towering over 1.8 meters in the corridor. He instantly drew all eyes toward him. The man hesitated for a moment, then carefully poked my arm with his finger. "Hey, high school kid, are you okay?" As soon as I opened my mouth, I vomited directly onto his Doc Martens. The air fell silent for a few seconds. The last subway train slowly pulled away from the platform at this moment. The man irritably ran his fingers through his hair, his gaze landing on my face. The next day, Barry waited for me at the subway station to go to school together, anxiously asking how I was last night. "Why didn't you send me a message when you got home? I was so worried about you." I paused for a moment, then asked him how Evangeline was doing. Barry let out a sigh of relief and explained, "I'm glad you're not mad at me. Evangeline ran into some troublemakers on her way home yesterday. Luckily, I arrived in time, so she wasn't harmed." "Doris, I didn't mean to leave you behind, but Evangeline needed me more." I calmly asked, "Were the ones bullying Evangeline two little delinquents with pink long hair?" "That's right. But how did you know?" I looked at Barry with innocent eyes. "How strange. Do you remember the night I got punished? I clearly saw Evangeline getting along very well with those delinquents, calling each other sisters. Was she injured last night?" "She wasn't actually." Barry subconsciously frowned and thought. As for me, I pretended to casually reveal the bruise on my arm. "It was from bumping into something while showering last night." Barry immediately felt heartbroken, his eyes turning red. "What happened to this injury? Did those hooligans bully you last night?" I shook my head and stopped explaining, pretending to silently swallow all the grievances, then walked quickly into the classroom after shaking off Barry. Evangeline had already prepared breakfast for Barry. She let out an adorable little milk hiccup, blushing as she thanked Barry. "Hey man, thanks for last night. I don't know what came over me. I just instinctively called you. Perhaps you are the one I want to rely on in my heart." Barry lowered his eyes and coldly scrutinized her. Then after a long pause, uttered ominously, "The same taste." "What taste? Does breakfast taste the same as me?" "Hee hee. Could it be that you can't bear to eat me? Someone so sweet." "I'm saying, those two little delinquents last night smelled just like you. You vape the same flavor. You know them, don't you?" In an instant, Evangeline's face drained of color. She was sharp, immediately realizing the inconsistency lay with me. Her venomous gaze shot straight toward me. I returned her look with a faint smile. I'm not some delicate wife who keeps her mouth shut and takes the losses. She picked the wrong person to mess with. From that day on, everyone in class noticed Barry and Evangeline were fighting. Evangeline tried cautiously speaking to Barry many times. Barry pretended not to see her, no longer eating with her, nor discussing problems together. Every night he insists on seeing me home, silently following behind me. March is about to end, leaving everyone with nothing but studying. The math exam for the first mock test was very difficult. Kelly believed many questions went far beyond the syllabus, telling us not to look at them as she wouldn't explain. As the group leader, once she made the decision, none of the teachers in our grade would explain in detail, leaving us with just the answers. At this moment, Gina quietly asked me, "Don't study alone in silence. Take me with you." "Okay." It turns out that many meticulous people like me were very dissatisfied with Kelly's exam paper explanations and insisted on figuring out the questions Kelly didn't cover. The class monitor even planned to have parents jointly file a complaint against Kelly. Gina slumped on the table in frustration. Just relying on us won't work. I really can't understand it. At this moment, Barry walked in carrying a stack of thick English newspapers, personally distributing them to everyone. This task was originally mine. I'm the English class representative. When it was my turn, Barry casually explained, I happened to run into the English teacher while going to ask questions, so I just handed it in for you. Don't read too much into it. Barry, let me borrow your math practice exam. It had been so long since I'd spoken to him like this. He was so dazed that his hands trembled twice before he could pull out the test paper, eagerly handing it to me. Which parts don't you understand? I'll explain them to you. I don't mind the trouble. I frowned. These questions don't have the solving steps written out. Can you do them? Barry agreed without hesitation. Are these the questions Ms. Kelly didn't cover? I'll fill in the steps tonight. Tomorrow's Sunday. Would you be free to meet? I'll explain them to you. Are we still friends? Then, I neither agreed nor refused, resting my chin on my hand and responding with a playful smile. Barry, the joy in his eyes gradually faded as he clenched his fists anxiously, unsure how to do better to salvage the relationship. On Sunday, I met Gina at Starbucks. Barry didn't show up until a familiar figure appeared at the store entrance. Cousin, what brings you here? This tall man before me turned out to be Gina's cousin Cedric. Doris, you know him. My cousin is a top student at University A. Usually hard to find. Perfect timing to have him explain the problems. Right. I nodded and whispered an explanation. I don't mind. We do know each other. Once when I missed the last bus, he gave me a ride home. I know her. Your best friend threw up on my shoes. Both Cedric and I spoke at the same time, making Gina look all gossipy. That night I dirted Cedric's shoes. I thought I was dead meat. But surprisingly he didn't mind and even kindly drove me home. Turns out they weren't hoodlums. They were students who'd been pulling all-nighters at the Research Institute to finish their graduation projects and were rushing back to school to submit their papers. Cedric, though fierce and rough around the edges, he was surprisingly patient and efficient in his work. He spent half an hour explaining all the problems to us clearly, even detailing every step meticulously. It was only then that I noticed over 30 missed calls on my phone. All of them were from Barry. Wow, Barry, Gina exclaimed, pointing outside the door. I instinctively looked up, my gaze colliding fiercely with the disheveled Barry. Barry is remembered by everyone as a neat, aloof, and even somewhat obsessive academic, insisting that even his shoes remain spotless. But now, his sleeve is torn wide open, his trousers are splattered with mud, and his face is marked with cuts of varying sizes from shattered glass. Turns out he wasn't deliberately late. He was caught in a car accident and ran 3 kilometers on foot to get here. Sorry, Doris. Shall we begin now? Barry anxiously pulled out his math test paper, his scraped hand dripping blood as he trembled and hid it behind his back, afraid I'd look down on him. At that moment, Cedric spoke calmly. You got this wrong. The answer is 3. Can't even solve such an easy problem. Barry stared in shock, his red-rimmed eyes glaring fiercely at Cedric. Who are you? Which school do you go to? What's your rank? Cedric didn't even glance at him, took a sip of coffee, and asked if he could give us a ride home on his way. I awkwardly reminded him that it was my coffee he was drinking. Oh, you're right. But with the exact same number of syrup pumps added. I really thought it was mine. My mom says a hot Americano with 4 pumps of syrup and a splash of milk tastes like spoiled herbal medicine. Seems like you two have quite similar tastes. Ha ha ha. Gina teased me mischievously, only to be jointly countered by Cedric and me. Amidst the playful banter, Barry suddenly said, I think I like you, Doris. The air went silent for a second before being disrupted again by Cedric's sarcastic remarks. Smiling, I linked arms with Gina and asked Barry what he had just said. Barry pressed his thin lips together and didn't answer. Oh, then go to the hospital if you need to, or go home if you're fine. We'll head off first. With that, Gina and I got into Cedric's car without giving Barry another glance. After May began, I would study until 11 or 12 every night before heading home. I come from a single-parent family, and with my mom on assignment in the Netherlands this year, no one was around to care how late I came home. Instead, it was my classmates who took turns urging me to go home. offering me rides with their parents. Gina simply had Cedric pick me up. She was afraid Cedric would exhaust himself day and night in the research institute, and picking me up would prove he was still alive. I refused several times, but I would still see Cedric's car parked at the school gate. When I mustered the courage to refuse again, I noticed through the window that the man was so exhausted he had fallen asleep. He didn't even wake up when I got into the passenger seat. Actually, you don't have to pick me up every day. The car was quiet, with only Cedric's steady breathing remaining. I sighed and was about to open the door to get out when the man suddenly locked the car door. I'll just sleep for 5 minutes, then take you home. The deep, drowsy voice of a mature man made my ears burn and my heart race suddenly. I didn't dare reach over to his side to unlock the car door, so I obediently curled up in my seat, spacing out until I unexpectedly fell asleep too. The night breeze carried the rich fragrance of osmanthus through the window, and I slept more peacefully than ever. At 6 o'clock the next morning, the piercing horn of the construction vehicle woke both of us up, eyes meeting. Cedric froze for a few seconds before rubbing his temples and sighing. Unbelievable. Kid, you really dare. Huh? Falling asleep so carelessly in a man's car. The whole night, I blushed slightly, straightened up, and whispered, I trust your character. Besides, I'm not interested in you. Cedric raised an eyebrow coldly, got out of the car, and bought soy milk and steamed buns from a nearby breakfast stall. After we finished eating together, just before leaving, he suddenly said to me, I'm not interested in you either. My brother doesn't date 18-year-olds. I got out of the car and kicked his wheel. As I turned to leave, the corners of my mouth uncontrollably curved into a faint smile. It was only much later that I found out. That day, Cedric was also smiling as he watched my retreating figure. I arrived at the classroom early, and there weren't many people there yet. Just in time, I witnessed Evangeline confessing her feelings to Barry. So now, it's me, as sweet as milk candy, confessing to you. Barry, will you accept me? Evangeline wore a beautiful little dress and confidently handed the handmade chocolate to Barry on the podium. I stepped one foot into the classroom through the front door, hesitated, then stepped back, deciding to enter through the back door instead. Doris. Barry called my name and stepped between Evangeline and me. Sunlight scattered over the slender figure of the youth, casting a soft glow upon him. He gazed at me with deep affection. Since everyone is here, let's just clear the air. Evangeline, loving you seems to have become an instinct for me. Even if we're not together, I'll still consider you my best friend and unconditionally agree to all your requests. But now, I'm sorry to have to refuse you. The one I love is Doris. Numerous gazes fell upon us. Evangeline's face gradually turned from red to pale, her lips twisting into a stiff smile as if she had never suffered such humiliation before. I don't like you that much either. Just messing with you, bro. She casually tossed the chocolate into the trash, hesitated for a moment, then pulled out her phone to connect to the classroom projector and displayed a few photos. It was this morning, a photo of me and Cedric together. But bro, I gotta warn you, Doris seems to have a boyfriend. Last night they slept in the same car, and that guy looked shady. She might not be as innocent as you think. I didn't lose to her. So what? Doris's actions have nothing to do with you. It wasn't Barry who said this, but the class monitor. Then, a second person began to criticize Evangeline. So you secretly took photos of that girl and spread nasty rumors. Were you under the car last night to know so much? A normal person's first thought would be that the guy is probably Doris' relative. Right. Like an older brother dropping her off at school. A dirty mind sees filth everywhere. That's you. Getting defensive now. Surely you're not getting defensive. Evangeline. Evangeline stood frozen on the podium, her eyes growing redder as she clutched the torn exam paper tightly, unable to utter a single word in response. I kicked the power cord in half, sneering coldly at her. Didn't you consider Barry your best buddy? How come you're so worked up now that your best buddy confessed to me? We're not even in the same league. How can you claim you haven't lost to me? Evangeline suddenly broke down, shoved the door open violently, and ran out, even losing one of her little high heels in the process. At this moment, Barry finally snapped out of his immense shock, his eyes red-rimmed as he tugged at my sleeve. Your clothes. You didn't change them. They're the same as yesterday. So what? Barry took a trembling deep breath and softly confirmed with me. So, who were you with last night? What's it to you? I pushed away Barry's arm in front of everyone and turned back to my seat. I get how you feel. But I don't like you. Stop making a scene and leave. Don't disrupt everyone's studying. As the college entrance exam countdown begins, everyone is solely focused on studying. Meeting Barry again was when we returned to school to collect our score reports. With a calm and composed expression, he didn't ask about my score but instead pulled a box of contraceptives from his backpack and handed it to me. I don't mind your past. Stay in City A for the future. I want to introduce you to my family. We still have plenty of time ahead. I hope my girl, even if she doesn't belong to me now, learns to protect herself well. Men understand far more than you can imagine. So listen. I froze for a few seconds, not knowing what was wrong with Barry's mind. Later, Gina told me. Once the top student in his grade, Barry saw his college entrance exam scores drop significantly. He didn't even attempt the final math and physics questions, ranking only 51st in the school. This peculiar number made me realize something instantly. I rushed out of the teaching building and stopped Barry, thinking I understood. He stood in the sunlight and gave me a gentle smile. Barry. I tilted my head and called his name. Heard you bombed the exam. What a shame. I ranked third in our grade this time, 20 points above the cutoff. I'm going to college in the capital. You know, you didn't fail on purpose just to attend the same university as me, did you? You don't actually think I'm the same as before, do you? Barry, the smug grin on his face slowly faded, as if something had silently shattered into pieces, and that smile had completely transferred onto my face. I pushed Barry aside and ran towards the tall figure at the school gate. Cedric. He promised to take me to the concert after I picked up my score report. We had a wild day of fun in City A, and after the concert, we went to watch the fireworks display. Finally, we strolled along the bustling riverside, where small boats adorned with lights drifted by. Amidst the glow, he gazed at me quietly, his thin lips curving into a faint smile. I've finished applying for my Ph.D. program in the U.S., and I'll be leaving soon. I'm planning to study in another city too. Is this the last time we'll see each other? My mom's job makes it hard for her to come back to the country even once. Since the college entrance exams, it's been Cedric who's been by my side. His car is filled with plush toys we won together. His wrist wears my hair tie. And all his friends, even his professors, know me. In my phone, he's the only chat pinned at the top besides my mom's. As the fireworks exploded, I mustered the courage to confess. Would you like to try a long-distance relationship? No. A cross-country one. I don't mind at all. The man smiled silently, the tenderness in his eyes almost melting into liquid. You're only 18. Right. You haven't seen the campus heartthrob playing basketball, the senior playing guitar at the party, or skipped classes and traveled with your best friends yet. There are still so many things you haven't experienced. So go and explore first. Learn to enjoy your 18-year-old life. When you think spending time with me is worth it, then we can talk about love. I'll wait for you to grow up. I opened my eyes in astonishment. Just like that. I didn't understand, nor was I willing to accept it. So I grabbed him and asked if we counted as being in a relationship. Cedric's gaze was tender and indulgent as he slowly leaned closer to me in the darkness. But in the end, all he did was gently bump his nose against mine. We were together, just for that second when my heart skipped a beat. But we broke up. I'm afraid I'm not good enough for you. Cedric said before going abroad that he had a birthday gift to give me, but I never received it. Even after moving to the capital for school, youth seems to always start and end in such a hurry. The pencil case still holds the pen I never returned to Gina, who has already left for school in another city. Annoying Kelly hasn't gotten her comeuppance yet, and I'm about to leave senior year forever. The fallen academic ace and his shameless white moonlight might never meet again in this lifetime. And that relationship of mine that lasted only a second before ending abruptly. First love. In my first year of graduate school, I attended a high school reunion. It was raining and traffic was terrible that day. When Barry and I pushed the door open at the same time, all eyes turned toward us. Remember how our English teacher won the lottery and became rich? Come sit down. Doris, I heard you got into the Z Academy of Sciences. That's amazing. I greeted everyone with a smile. Barry thoughtfully draped a blanket over my legs, poured me a cup of hot tea, and softly asked if it was too hot. From the moment he entered, his gaze never left me. Gina couldn't help but ask, "Are you two married?" Impossible. We're purely just good buddies. Upon hearing my response, Barry fumbled and spilled his tea. The class monitor curiously interjected, "Barry wasn't your first love." Everyone could tell back then. But you two never ended up together. Does it count as first love if we never dated? What were we back then? I rejected Barry before the college entrance exams. My first love wasn't this kind of person. Barry silently suppressed his bitterness and forced a wry smile. Back then, unwilling to accept defeat, he retook the college entrance exams for a year and finally made it to the capital, managing to stay in touch with me, though it was limited to casual greetings and small favors like borrowing a power bank. And today, at this class reunion, who knows how long he had waited in the parking garage, deliberately planning this chance encounter. While everyone was still exchanging pleasantries, the private room door suddenly swung open, and the short, plump Kelly walked in. After asking around, no one knew who had invited her, yet she unceremoniously took the seat of honor and proceeded to inquire about everyone's recent lives one by one. When it was my turn, she smirked disdainfully and immediately critiqued my outfit. My eyes are sharp. I can tell a lot just by looking at someone. Such a deep neckline. Such a short skirt. Who exactly are you trying to show off for? Even back in school, you were never the well-behaved type. Now that you're all grown up and out in society, I'm sure there are plenty of sugar daddies for you to hook. But a girl should have some self-respect. The air fell silent in an instant. I calmly glanced over the table full of dishes, finally settling on a bowl of egg drop soup, and turned it toward Kelly. Then, I flung it hard onto her face. Back in school, I didn't know how to fight back. Now I do. Some foul mouths need to be scalded before they can speak like humans. Kelly screamed like crazy, but no one in the class stepped forward to stop me. The class monitor silently closed the compartment door. Ms. Kelly, those math problems you wouldn't let us discuss back then. 3 of them appeared on the college entrance exam. My mom joined other parents to file a complaint against you. But I heard you only got a small bonus deduction. What do you have to compensate us with? Kelly was stunned for a moment, trembling as she grabbed her bag and stood up, then scrambled out of the private room in a panic. Later, I found out that the reason she disliked me back then was because her nephew ranked 52nd in the placement exam, while the cutoff for the elite science class was set at my score. So, she always believed I had stolen her nephew's opportunity. In the end, she went even further by giving her nephew special treatment, naturally neglecting to focus on teaching us. Such trash finally did something major a few years later, getting exposed by successive batches of students and ending up behind bars. Evangeline was the last to arrive at the class reunion, immediately asking where Ms. Kelly was. Kelly was the teacher who doted on her most in senior year, and it was also her who sent out the reunion invitation. Everyone immediately gave her a cold look. Her college entrance exam results were mediocre, but she managed to attract many fans by making videos. So she led her dubious friends down the path of becoming internet celebrities. Unfortunately, after 3 years of trying, she made little progress and didn't even manage to get her college diploma. Throughout the entire gathering, she kept her attention fixed on Barry, frequently seizing opportunities to add him as a friend. Barry didn't even spare her a glance. I had long sold my house in City A and stayed at a hotel for the night. Barry insisted on driving after me to see me check in. He took a long time parking, and later inexplicably gave me a jewelry box, saying it was my birthday gift. I glanced at it briefly and tossed it into the lobby trash bin. Thank you. Can you leave now? Barry gave a bitter smile and slowly pulled out an old diary from his pocket. It was actually my high school diary. Every page inside had been torn apart by me, then painstakingly pieced back together by him, held with tape. I frowned fiercely and tried to snatch it. Barry, but he held it like some precious treasure, clutching it tightly to his chest. It's been 5 years, Doris, and I'm still waiting for that confession you never made. Every page of your diary is filled with love for me. Does none of it count anymore? Unable to grab the diary, I got so angry that I slapped him twice. Hard. Are you done yet? The air remained still for a long time. Barry wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and suddenly asked if I believed in fate. You're not mine, and you won't be anyone else's either. Are you out of your mind? What do you take me for? You haven't even been drinking tonight, so why are you talking nonsense? Barry gazed at me with a sorrowful and mournful look, ultimately saying nothing before turning and leaving. And the moment he left, a familiar figure walked into the hotel lobby. Cedric, standing at the front desk. Our eyes met, and my heart suddenly raced a little. 5 years apart, the youthful innocence in his eyes had completely faded. Dressed in a low-key, understated black suit, His every move exuded the charm of a mature man. In these 5 years, he had even changed his contact information. I couldn't wait to give him an answer. And it seemed he also had something to say. But we were both interrupted by the check-in announcement. After completing the formalities, I invited him to have a cup of coffee upstairs in the hotel. The man's eyes were indifferent as he simply said, "I don't like hot Americanos anymore. Sorry." Unwilling to give up, I bit my lower lip and took the initiative to wait for him in the elevator. Cedric's room was also on the 12th floor. Yet he stood frozen, staring at the trash bin in the lobby. The waiter urged him several times, but in the end, he missed my elevator. That night in the hotel room, I received the materials from the college advisor. The associate professor who was parachuted into the college turned out to be Cedric. Good luck, Junior. A 30-year-old virgin who never married is scarier than a ghost. When I graduated, he made me revise my thesis 28 times and dragged us into group meetings at ungodly hours. It's like he has no nightlife or friends at all. If he was that terrifying as a TA, now that he's a professor this year, I can't even imagine. I tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep while clutching my phone. What the senior meant was, Cedric is still single. Now that I'm staying on the same hotel floor as the person I love, I can't bear the thought of missing my chance again. So, I twisted the doorknob and rushed out. Unexpectedly, the moment I pushed the door open, Cedric was standing right outside, staring at me without blinking. "You." The unfinished words were all drowned in a scorching kiss. Cedric pushed into the room, pinning me against the wall with one arm wrapped around my waist. His kiss was domineering and fierce, as if trying to meld me into his very being. "The birthday gift I gave you 5 years ago. You never received it, did you? That jewelry box in the lobby trash bin. Someone lied to you, right?" Breathless from the kiss, fragmented syllables escaped my lips intermittently, only to be swallowed by the man's relentless kisses, as though he was demanding repayment for all 5 lost years at once. So that jewelry box was actually Cedric's gift intended for me all those years ago. By some twist of fate, it was intercepted by Barry, who deliberately gave it to me just hours ago to create misunderstanding during my reunion with Cedric. Thank goodness we didn't fall for it. At this moment, the unspoken confession no longer felt urgent. I tilted my head up and kissed him, responding to the entanglement of our lips. For a fleeting moment, we gazed at each other in the darkness, our eyes reflecting nothing but each other's image. I said I'd wait a few more years for you, but I never said I wouldn't chase you or love you after those years. I've waited long enough for you, Doris. That night at the subway station, you were the one who crashed into my arms. You're mine for this lifetime. Not long after the class reunion, it was said that Barry and Evangeline had a whirlwind marriage, and it was a shotgun wedding. The two moved to settle in Japan, as Barry had requested. Evangeline became a full-time housewife, focusing on her pregnancy while managing her social media accounts. She wrote daily stories about her childhood sweetheart, husband, living a blissful life. Top student Barry was called up to verify the calculations. Window. Barry's will didn't mention her at all, yet left me a considerable sum of money. Turns out, before that class reunion, right before we met, he had just been diagnosed with a terminal illness. Holding the diary, he made a desperate confession, but it still didn't win my true heart. So he indulged and took Evangeline, taking her far away to spend his remaining days in peace. Along with that money, he sent me one last message. "Doris, the living can never compete with the dead. If I die, you'll remember me forever." After some thought, I donated the money to a stray dog shelter. The shelter erected a stone tablet for Barry, carried by a turtle and placed at the mountain entrance. Every visitor climbing the mountain has to pat the turtle's head, thus fulfilling his wish to leave a lasting legacy. However, Cedric was quite jealous because of this. After he rejected my thesis proposal for the 8th time, I caught him on the sofa, gripping his neck as I fiercely warned him, "Don't think that just because you're a professor, you can do whatever you want or abuse your power for personal grudges. If you have a problem with me, take it out on me. Don't torture my report." The man's eyes darkened as he pushed back against me with deliberate force. "Hey, classmate, could you get off my lap before threatening me?" My face turned bright red, but before I could escape, the man pulled me into his arms, his warm breath brushing against my neck. "You're asking for it, huh? Think you can do whatever you want, huh?" Outside, the night was deep, with a gentle breeze swaying the tender moonlight. Occasionally, a stray cat leaped lightly over the wall. its soft meow scattering across the spring night.